You did not go quiet because you suddenly stopped caring. You went completely silent because your nervous system realized that speaking would fundamentally destroy the relationship. When someone hurts you deeply, and your immediate reaction is to withdraw, shut down, and stare blankly into the distance, society is incredibly quick to judge you. They call you immature. They accuse you of being passive-aggressive. They tell you that you are deliberately stonewalling them to inflict punishment. That is a profound biological illusion. The act of going completely silent during a moment of intense emotional pain is not a manipulative tactic or a calculated weapon. It is a highly sophisticated, involuntary neurological lockdown. What you are experiencing in those quiet moments is not a lack of emotion, but a catastrophic flood of it. Your mind has been pushed so far past its cognitive capacity to process betrayal that it physically cuts the power grid to prevent a total system failure. In the next few minutes, we are going to explore the brutal clinical reality behind why people completely shut down when they are hurt. We will dissect the exact biological mechanism that physically paralyzes your ability to speak. We will expose the profound difference between toxic stonewalling and a trauma-induced freeze response. And most importantly, we will reveal why forcing a quiet person to talk is the most dangerous mistake anyone can make. Pause and write this down now. Your silence is not a punishment for them, it is an emergency evacuation for you. Let us look at the anatomy of the emotional shutdown. The greatest misconception about going quiet is the assumption that it is a conscious choice. The people who hurt you truly believe that you are sitting there in silence, deliberately withholding your thoughts just to make them suffer. They think you are playing a game of emotional chicken. They are entirely wrong. When you are deeply hurt, betrayed, or severely misunderstood by someone you care about, your brain does not perceive this as a simple social disagreement. It perceives it as a literal threat to your survival. For highly empathetic or observant individuals, human connection is a fundamental baseline for safety. When that connection is suddenly weaponized against you, your nervous system experiences a massive shock. You do not choose to stop talking. The biological capacity for speech is violently stripped away from you. To understand this paralysis, we have to look directly at the neurobiology of severe emotional distress. When you are hit with a profound emotional injury, your amygdala, the primitive alarm system deep inside your brain, detects an overwhelming psychological hemorrhage. It instantly overrides your rational thinking brain. A 2024 study on trauma and linguistic processing revealed a fascinating and terrifying reality about the human freeze response. When emotional pain reaches a critical threshold, blood flow is literally diverted away from Broca's area. Broca's area is a specific region in the left hemisphere of your brain responsible for formulating speech and translating complex feelings into spoken words. The blood rushes out of this language center and floods directly into your survival centers. The circuitry required to explain your feelings is physically unplugged. The librarian is thrown out of the building, and the security guards lock the doors. This is why, when you are hurt, your throat feels tight. This is why your jaw clenches and your chest feels like it is filled with heavy concrete. You might have thousands of thoughts racing violently through your head, but when you open your mouth, nothing comes out. The bridge between your mind and your vocal cords has been blown up. You are experiencing a state of structural dissociation. Part of your brain is screaming in agony, but the executive function required to articulate that agony has been temporarily shut down to conserve energy. You look at the person who hurt you, and you stare at them with a blank, empty expression. They read this expression as coldness or arrogance. They do not realize that they are looking at a system that is desperately trying to reboot after a catastrophic crash. They see a quiet room. They do not see the hurricane raging silently behind the locked door. You are not shutting them out. You are desperately trying to hold yourself together so you do not shatter into a million pieces. We must establish the absolute difference between stonewalling and the freeze response, because society constantly confuses the two. Stonewalling is an offensive maneuver. It is a tactic frequently used by narcissists and highly manipulative individuals to assert dominance. A stonewaller goes quiet to make you feel anxious. They use silence as a whip to punish you, to make you beg for their attention, and to control the dynamic of the room. They are entirely calm, calculating, and aware of what they are doing. The freeze response, which is what you experience, is entirely defensive. You are not trying to control the other person, you are trying to survive them. You do not want them to beg for your attention. In fact, you want them to back away completely. Your silence is a desperate, silent plea for safety. You are withdrawing because the sensory input of the argument, the raised voices, the unfair accusations, and the emotional manipulation have become physically intolerable. You absorb the pain, internalize it, and shut down the perimeter. Rewind this if needed. Stonewalling is about maintaining power. Going quiet is about preventing complete psychological destruction. One of the most tragic aspects of this shutdown is the hidden paradox of your silence. The deeper truth is that you often go quiet to protect the person who is hurting you. When you are pushed to the absolute edge, when the betrayal is sharp and the disrespect is blatant, you feel an incredibly powerful surge of defensive anger. You are highly intelligent, and you know exactly what to say to completely destroy the other person's ego. You know their insecurities. You know their weak points. You possess the exact verbal ammunition required to burn their psychological house to the ground, but your empathy steps in at the very last second. You realize that if you open your mouth and let the fire out, there will be nothing left of the relationship to salvage. So you swallow the poison. You trap the anger inside your own body. You choose to absorb the agonizing silence because you know that the alternative is unleashing a level of verbal destruction that you can never take back. You are sacrificing your own internal peace to protect them from your justified rage. Your silence is the loudest form of mercy you could possibly offer. This brings us to the absolute worst thing someone can do to a person in a trauma-induced shutdown, the interrogation trap. When you go quiet, the person who hurt you often becomes instantly uncomfortable with the silence. The silence holds a mirror up to their poor behavior, and they cannot tolerate the reflection. So they begin to poke the bear. They demand that you speak. They say things like, "Are you just going to sit there?" Or "Talk to me, say something." They crowd your physical space. They refuse to let you leave the room. They believe that forcing you to communicate will instantly resolve the conflict. This is a massive, dangerous miscalculation. When your nervous system is in a freeze state, it requires time and absolute safety to thaw. If someone demands an immediate explanation while your amygdala is still firing alarm signals, they are pushing a cornered animal. Forcing a quiet person to speak does not create resolution. It triggers a deeper, more permanent biological lockdown. Your brain registers their aggressive demands as a secondary attack. It proves to your nervous system that this person does not respect your boundaries, and it forces the vault doors to lock even tighter. The aftermath of swallowing this pain is incredibly heavy. When you absorb the impact silently instead of externalizing it, the conflict does not just disappear, it gets stored inside your body. This is why, after a severe emotional shutdown, you experience extreme physical exhaustion. You might sleep for 12 hours and still wake up feeling like you were hit by a train. Your muscles ache, your stomach is tied in knots, and your brain fog is so thick you can barely focus on simple tasks. Your body is metabolizing the massive amount of cortisol and adrenaline that flooded your system while you were sitting perfectly still. You carry the invisible cost of being the bigger person. You carry the weight of the unspoken words. Over time, if this pattern repeats constantly in a toxic environment, your baseline of trust begins to erode. You stop expecting people to understand you. You retreat further into your own mind, building a quiet, solitary fortress where no one can reach you, because you have learned that letting people in only leads to catastrophic shutdowns. If you are the person who goes quiet when you are hurt, you must stop pathologizing your own survival mechanisms. You must stop feeling guilty for needing space to process pain. You live in a loud, reactive world that demands instant answers, instant arguments, and instant emotional displays. You operate on a different frequency. Your nervous system prioritizes deep observation, careful calculation, and self-preservation. The next time you feel the silence washing over you, the next time the words evaporate and the invisible glass wall goes up, do not force yourself to break it. Step back. Honor the boundary. You do not owe anyone an immediate explanation for the pain they just caused you. Healing does not mean you suddenly start screaming back. Healing means you recognize your silence for what it truly is, a brilliant protective shield designed to keep you intact. If this clinical breakdown resonated with the silent reality of your life, subscribe to the channel. You are not cold. You are not broken. You executed a perfect survival strategy. Honor the survival. Build the future. See you in the next protocol.